The way is in training. Miyamoto Musashi. My friends, 10 to 15 minutes a day. If you will spend that time, you will learn that the way is in training. You will master these charts over time. And I tell everyone, don't worry about how long it takes to master the charts. Once you master them, the world is your oyster. You're going to have that prescient skill of being able to accurately follow price movement, and then the world is your oyster. Let's jump into these charts. Everything down for the day except gold. Gold up about 1.5%. Now, of course, we had a weekly vertical crossover all the way back in early December, had a divergence for a few weeks, and then, of course, at the beginning of the year, the drop started. It continues. Price percent oscillator heading down. Derivative oscillator about flat. Red down candle forming first day of the latest 5-day candle. Hasn't hit the low of 2 weeks ago. That is the week ending the 25th of February. But we still have 4 more days this week. We shall see. What do we see on the 2-day? Price percent oscillator cranking over, heading down. This is just the first day of this latest 2-day candle. Red down candle forming. Derivative oscillator gaining downward momentum. Half day, 2 days of strong strengthening down movement. Price percent oscillator crossed over, heading down. Derivative oscillator red and growing. So again, lots of downward pressure. Why not? War in Europe, inflation out of control, energy prices going through the roof. Energy always portends recession. And again, it's ridiculous. It's where we are. And guess what? We're going to trade the fool out of it. What do we see on the NASDAQ 100? Oh, by the way, I just wait for some kind of news that won't make any sense to you at all that'll knock the market up. It'll knock the stops out, and all of a sudden, things will go up. And then they'll crank back over to going down again. How do we know that? Well, we can look. We can see these green candles wherever they pop up. And even with all of the downward pressure, you will see stuff like that occur. Like happened last week, like happened the week ending the 4th of February. After we had that rollover on the price percent oscillator back in early December. We had things crank down, and then all of a sudden, there at the end of the year, pop up and then roll over again. So you'll have these things happen even with exogenous events. There'll be something that'll pop up and change it, and then it'll go back. So follow the charts, not the noise. Follow the charts, not the noise. Price percent oscillator on the weekly NASDAQ 100, we see it heading down. Derivative oscillator still losing a little bit of downward momentum. That's from the prior week's green spinning top. But again, still lots of downward pressure. What do we see on the 2-day chart? We see a red down candle forming, hasn't hit the low. When we go back a few days, but again, cranking over on the price percent oscillator and the derivative oscillator growing. And of course, we look at the half day, we see 2.5 days of strong down movement, price well below the weekly and the 2-day and the half day trend lines. Lots of downward pressure on stocks, and why not? Now let's look at bonds. Bonds pulling back some 0.76%. Now, when we look at bonds, we realize overall what? We have a strong down movement on our trend line. I mean, we have all this weight pushing it down. Price percent oscillator, though, is flat. Still negative, though. Derivative oscillator losing downward momentum, but still lots of downward pressure there. Now we look at the intermediate chart. We can say several days trying to push up. The most recent high was hit back on the 2-day candle ending Wednesday the 2nd, so that's the 1st and 2nd of March. We had some kicking up movement, and as we look, the latest candle that's forming, and then again, these are Heikin-Ashi candlesticks. It's showing us the average base still heading up. We see on the 2-day, the price percent oscillator still heading up, derivative oscillator still heading up. So again, intermediate chart on bonds trying to move up. Typically, bonds are what, a safe haven? They try to be when the market's crashing. So we'll see where they end up going. Just starting the week off down is just the first day of a potential 5-day candle. We can see where bonds really popped up on Friday, and then that's sort of bleeding off. Price percent oscillator still positive, heading down on the half-day. Derivative oscillator about flat. So we'll keep our eye on bonds. The real gold spot in the markets today is gold. What do we see going on there? Higher highs moving up nicely. Nice weekly candle stroking the week off to begin with. Price percent oscillator, derivative oscillator heading up on the weekly. 2-day higher highs. First day of this latest 2-day candle moving up. Price percent oscillator spiking up. Derivative oscillator heading up. And on the half day, look at that. 2 days, a beautiful trend just moving right up. So gold is golden as we start the week off. Why wouldn't it be with everything going on? The safe haven for millennia. Now, what about Bitcoin? Well, we look at Bitcoin and we see on things like Grayscale Bitcoin down 5.59% for the day. We look at the Bitcoin futures all down about 5% for the day. We look at where things are on the weekly candle, and we see that price percent oscillator edging over, heading down. Derivative oscillator red still losing downward momentum. Little red candle forming for the week so far. Solid red forming. Again, we'll keep our eye on that, see where it is actually going. We look at the 2-day. What do we see there? Of course, red down candle forming. Price percent oscillator still positive, heading down. Derivative oscillator still positive, losing momentum. And for the half day, we're going to take a look at the Bitcoin futures ETF, XBTF, because again, we only get a daily report on the New York Stock Exchange Bitcoin Index. Let's check out what we see going on the futures for Bitcoin. Lots of strong down movement. Like I said, around 5% for the day. 1, 2, 3 days of ever strengthening down movement, lower lows, hammering down. Price percent oscillator and derivative oscillator. Keep our eye on things. Only bright spot is the 2-day hasn't crossed over going down yet. So we'll see where things are. But as we've been talking for quite a while, still downward pressure on Bitcoin. We'll wait, watch and see. The bright spot starting the week off, of course, is gold. And for those of you who are in shorts, like I am on stocks, it's a beautiful day for me. Gold was a beautiful day for me too. So again, practice trade all these things. When you think you're getting good, go into some fractional trading with a small dollar amount to see if you can actually enter at the right times, track things properly, garner profits, and see if you actually know what you are doing. My friends, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. How do you get good at this? Practice. Practice, practice. That is what it is all about. The way, as Miyamoto Musashi tells us, is in practice. God bless. All the best from the whole team at Charting Wealth World Headquarters.